Paul here, and at the moment I'm still working on this set of wing ribs for swept wing. And I'll just show you real quick is that I have two scenes in here. If I can get this up here, is this is the template scene, and it just shows the wing structure and how I sectioned it off. And this is actually how I started out with the file. So if I hide this part, you can actually see this is the wing I based the airfoil ribs on. And the wing has some interesting features. It's got like a swept leg edge. Trailing edge has a slight angle to it too, but it's not too strong. It's just how I scaled it and such. And there's actually like a tiny little bit of dihedral in there. I don't know if you notice it. The internal spars also have it. And I put them in there in setup, but I expect you to use something else so you don't have to 3D print it. For some things, I think it's just quicker to get off the shelf components. You don't waste your time printing them. You just have them as part of your kit as you're building out, and it's like stronger material than what you're 3D printing with anyway, so you may as well use that. And just save the 3D printing for certain project critical parts. The rest you use off the shelf, and you save yourself printing time, and you might use better materials for the job anyways. At least that's the way my thinking goes. So, and back on the wing, there's the ortho here. I already did that view, but the frontal view, like I said, there's a bit of dihedral in there. Some of it is the wing itself. It's not really the angle of the wing is tilted, it's just the way the foil is. And ever so slight angle with the internal supporting spars, I guess that's the word, and the ribs. And I'll go this side view. And it should be in my Thingiverse project files in the ortho view, but you can see that there is an actual twist here. The angle of attack for the airfoil section at the base is different than the angle of attack at the tip. Oops. And the idea is that if you go fly your aircraft with this type of wing at a higher angle of attack, you will still have lift at the wing tips even if you're starting to stall at the root of the wing, which means your plane will not flip over too easily or whatever. It's just like a feature some real aircraft have it for control purposes, so I figured I'd do a little bit of twisting and stuff when I modeled the wing in Blender, and yeah, I put that feature in there. So how well this wing works aerodynamically, I have no idea. I don't have that kind of resource and stuff to compute it, and I don't have the means to 3D print it. I'm kind of on a shoestring budget, so. But I thought it'd be cool to approach this idea and put it out there for others to play with, and of course it's Creative Commons attribution, and what is the other one? Share alike. So if you mess with it, put it back out there. And I mean, if you keep it for yourself, but if you're trying to do projects, just share it again and stuff. I have no problem with that. Maybe you can improve on it or feedback or pointers. And I think I'll just go over my process of working on a wing spar. I'm just going to do one because it takes a while. So I'm going to go back to, what was it? The main scene. I have two scenes in the file, and I'll leave the original wing in the file as I update it, just because if you want to make other parts based on that wing, you have the wing in there. And I figured that would be convenient and nice. So here's how I go about doing it. I've taken the spar, or if I still have it on another layer, but these, I copied them and cut them up into bits so I can do this in Blender. And I'm using 2.76 because for me that's more stable than the current release. So center my view on that, and I'm going to hide everything else. So I'm just looking at this, and I'm going to put some holes in the rib, and booleans I don't find work so well for me, so what I am going to do is I am going to do a knife project. So I think I'll just show the process of knife projecting and putting the holes in and stitching it up. The edge flow probably won't be the final edge flow, so just letting you know, it's just something I'll get the holes in there And I'm actually thinking of cutting out this back portion too, so as I model along, I'm probably going to do it much like the front is here. I'm just going to cut out another hole and leave a section in here as a supporting material. So this should be pretty sturdy, it shouldn't flex too much. And I don't know if it needs it, depending on the size. I could put cross bracing in there. I did another airfoil for a straight wing, but I'm not going to pull that up just because I want to work on this. I'll just work on it. You can watch. Clicky clicky on the mouse. Alright, so I'm going to delete this face. And these vertices. And that just leaves the circle here. For some reason my center is probably where the original reference was, so I'm just going to... Don't know if I really have to do that, but they'll put the origin here. And same for this reference. Delete that face, because knife project you have to have just the edge loop, nothing else, no supporting stuff. It gets confused otherwise. Like I said, Boolean, I found in my experience it doesn't always work so great, so it's just how you gotta work in Blender, man. At least, yeah. Okay, so I have that done. And how do I project it so it goes straight at that angle that the original reference piece is at? And this is just a smooth preview. If I go out here in the modifier list, it's there, but it's not applied. I'm not applying the modifier until it's finished, and I think I'll actually leave the modeled sections as the modifier so you can adjust it as you want it. But before you go send it to your 3D printing, you can apply and set that as needed. The actual mesh is lower, probably like this. Okay. And since I've turned off the preview, when I go to edit this thing, I don't have to mess with that. Alright, just so you know what's going on. So, center my view on this section, and I switch to orthographic mode, because that's what you need to project correctly. If you project while you're in perspective mode, the rays of the view are what determine the cut, and it will be weird. So you gotta make sure it's in orthographic if you're trying stuff like this yourself. Alright, so what I do is, instead of snapping to the regular views, which are the number pad keys, you hold down Shift, and that snaps to the view in reference to the selected object, or in case of edit mode, the selected faces, whatever is selected. So I am projecting orthographically in reference to the circle, and in this case it comes across on the other side. It shouldn't really matter, but go to that side, and while that circle is selected, I select this as well, not changing the view at all, and I go to edit mode, and then I will do a knife project. There it is. And it didn't go all the way through, so I should do cut through. And, well, you know what, changing my views probably messed up the thing, so. Did it? Oh no, it didn't. It just didn't delete the faces. I can do that. So, sometimes when you do it on a flat surface, it seems like it deletes the faces automatically, but just in my experience. In this case, it's projecting on more than one surface. I guess it didn't do that. And I'll probably have to change some edges here in reference to loop, because this circle I'm using has 24 edges or vertices, depending on which way you want to look at it. And I would like to keep that consistent, just because I don't know, it's my reasons, but I figured it's pretty low and to keep it circular. Probably go as low as 16 or 12, but for this I just want round, so yeah. So let's delete those faces and probably start connecting through. Well, I should do the other one too, so. Yeah, when you go in smooth preview, it's going to project weird if I turn this off. Yeah, it's just you see something like that, you know, it's just. But that also tells you should have more supporting geometry, because shading artifacts or smoothing weirdness usually lets you know your mesh has got something weird going on. You should check it. Alright. Same here. And just see it from that side. Edit mode. And I'll do the knife project. Cut through his on. Double check it. Yeah, okay. Have the hole going through. Now this certain wing section is going to be trickier than the other ones I did, because the angle at which the rod goes through is actually projecting into the supporting surfaces of the outer shape of the airfoil. Because the other ones have just the block in the middle where the hole goes through. In this case, it overlaps a little bit. And that's because as the profile sections got thinner towards the tip, it's just less meat to work with, and I wanted to keep a relatively thick supporting surface here for the wing rib, you know. I think I did it sort of wide on this, but if you're spanning material over this to form the wing on the rib, you want a good, nice surface to glue to or bond your material to in whatever way you do it, or stretch it over. So if it was narrow, it would be more likely to pull through. So, and you got to consider how I-beams are structurally. In a way, this is like a variant of an I-beam, and it should have the same strength characteristics. Now, I know I'm not an engineer or anything close to that. It takes a lot of work to get that kind of job, but the reasoning and stuff is loosely based on that kind of stuff. So, you know, it's just time to model it through and connect the faces there, and I don't think I'll be needing those anymore. Maybe I can just hide them. I'll hide them for now, just so they're not looking at them. And go back to this and circle it out. And I have F2 as a Blender mod or Blender add-on, so I can just do that. It doesn't like that because, pardon me, the edge flows. But I do know a little trick here. I can just duplicate that along the x-axis. Actually, it can't be along the x-axis. I did have an axis of that, and there. Goes along that supporting axis. Yeah, custom axes are another thing that's handy in Blender if you don't know it so well. And that follows the axis of the rod. And what I need to do is weld the vertex there. Yeah, like I said, this is actually trickier than the other one. I should do is just do the view here. Yeah, that would help when it move it along the custom axes. It's pretty darn close. I don't have CAD, and Blender doesn't have all the CAD features, so it can't be too perfect, but for purposes of how this works and stuff, I think it's going to be close enough. It's not like a milling machine or something. I mean, if you want to fix it or tweak it, yeah, you can do that. No issues with it, but I think for building something this simple, it will be in the ballpark. You might need to file or sand this to get a good fit anyways, so. But you won't have to drill out the big hole, and the alignments should be pretty darn close. So. What did it say? got a little vertex. It must have been through it from the knife projecting operation. Yeah. It was. I'm thinking this one is probably. Yeah, it does complicate things a bit when you're projecting through more than one surface. So maybe it's not going to go as fast as I thought. However, I don't need that for this. You have to consider that Blender isn't really for CAD type work, it's for representational stuff, it's for visualization. So it's not meant to be perfectly accurate, or at least it was when it was first implemented and designed by the guys that made it. Ooh, that's just creating a weird artifact. I don't know why, but it could just be that sometimes normals isn't projecting right. Oh, because yeah, there's no supporting edges around it. Maybe that's it. Okay. Yeah, that's why it's looking weird. Because he's needed supporting edges. And probably remove that edge and this edge, because I'm trying to keep the edge flow to that of the circle, so I'll do that. So what I might want to do is can also do that. On this here automatically welds or merges the vertices. So if I'm using my control snap, it saves me an extra step. And my control snap is set for edges, but I guess I could make a vertex. It seems like it was working for vertex anyways. Anyhow. Did the job. Alright. And I gotta do that on the other side, obviously, because now I got weird edges. For now, I'm just gonna create a supporting edge here. Some extra supporting geometry. I might release it like this for now, but in a future version, I will try to clean this up. And I also have to have a supporting loop around it. If you look at the other foils in the project file, they have the supporting loops. But I'll just finish the video when I get the whole through here, and you kind of have an idea what's going on with the other ones. Yeah, yeah. Alright. Go here. Same kind of thing. Oh, I got a weird vertex in there. Yeah, projection's a little weird, but I think it'll be close enough. Don't need that one. I don't need that one because they're not doing anything for me right now. I'm just gonna bump this down because I think that's. What am I doing? I can just do it like this. There. See? Yeah, that'll do, and then I'll just do like I did the other one. Duplicate that, and along the custom edge, I believe. Yeah. pretty darn close. It's like thousandths of an inch. I don't think it's going to matter in this particular application. Building a real aircraft or something, but an RC model, I don't think it makes sense. Okay. Bring it around like that, and bring it around like that, and we got our hole. Okay, cool. And yeah, I'm going to do the rest of the work not on the video, but you know why it takes a while to get this thing done. It's just fidgety manual cleanup stuff, and I'm sure it needs a lot more. I don't have the best Boolean tools, and ones in Blender are a little clunky, and yeah, it's not going to look pretty, but when I work around with the supporting edges, they'll be like the other ones. Alright, hope that does it for now. And maybe you'll print them out or adjust them yourself and stuff, so it's just a work in progress. Be done soon enough.